Okay, we're going to get started. Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us today. We're really excited about this. This is our second event for the virtual series that we're doing with Women in Analytics. Today we have Catherine and Jen. So this is the data science career chat, and we're going to be talking about the hiring process for data scientists and data science roles. And we are collaborating today with Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, the Columbus chapter, which is new, and we'll do a quick intro of that as well. Awesome. So let's get started. So what is Bytes and Insights? So Bytes and Insights is a free virtual series that Women in Analytics is hosting. We just started 2 weeks ago. We're featuring panel discussions, fireside chats, technical webinars, and book chats with best-selling authors. And so join us every other Wednesday. We have a bunch more events that we'll be releasing as well. Everybody is welcome to attend these. And we hope that all participants abide by our WIA code of conduct as well. So a little bit about Women in Analytics. The mission of WIA is to increase visibility to the women making an impact in the analytics space. And we do that by providing a platform for women to lead conversations around advancements of analytical research, development, and applications. We also just recently launched a membership platform about a week and a half ago. So if you want to stay connected with WIA and our community, we started posting events in the analytics space. We have a resource center, job board, and a lot more coming this year. Lauren and Jen, do you want to do a quick introduction of WIMLDS Columbus?
Lauren, you're on mute.
Whoops. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Burke. I'm the founder and co-organizer of Columbus Women in Machine Learning and Data Science.
And I'm Jen Heider, co-organizer of WIMLDS Columbus.
So WIMLDS is an international organization that supports and promotes women and gender minorities that are practicing, studying, or interested in the fields of machine learning and data science. WIMLDS was founded in 2013 after inspiration from the Women in Machine Learning workshop and has expanded to nearly 100 chapters on 6 continents.
We host local events where we discuss machine learning and data science in an informal setting with the purpose of building a community around women and gender minorities in the fields. Our events create opportunities for members to engage in technical and professional conversations in a positive, supportive environment.
Our future events will include technical workshops, networking events, and hackathons. We are inclusive to anyone who supports our cause, regardless of gender identity or technical background.
You can connect with WIMLDS Columbus by joining our meetup, following us on Twitter, or reaching out to Lauren or I directly.
Awesome. And I know that this is a pretty big organization as well, as you mentioned, so there's a lot of different chapters too. And so if you're not in Columbus, you can definitely look to see if there's a chapter in your city.
Absolutely.
Okay, just a quick overview of the topics and agenda, and then we'll dive right into the good stuff. So today we're doing a career chat with Catherine and Jen. This session is going to cover how recruiters hire for data science roles, getting noticed by recruiters, evaluating data science job descriptions, and preparing for a data science interview. So we just went over some of the introductions. We're going to go into the career chats, and then we will dedicate some time at the end for Q&A with the audience. So if you have questions, feel free to start posting them throughout the conversation so that you don't forget them, and then we will address those for the last 15 minutes or so of this session. And then we'll do some closing remarks, and we'll give you some more information on other ways to stay engaged with us. So quick tips, if you're having audio issues, please send us an email. I'll be personally monitoring that and make sure that we can get you the help that you need. We will be doing the Q&A session, and I'm also going to launch a poll to actually kick us off. So the poll that we have today is, what is your current job title? So if you could take just a second and fill this out, we can start to look at some of the makeup of the audience today. It'll help guide our decision. We can use data to do that. And it'll also be a really interesting conversational point. Awesome. We have about 70% have voted so far. This is great. Awesome. I'm going to end the polling now. So it looks like a majority of people who are on this call today are in the other category, which is really interesting. So I'll let Catherine and Jen dissect that. Awesome. So real quick, before we jump into the conversation, I'm just going to do some quick intros of the two speakers that we have today. So our moderator today is Jen Heider. She's an insights analyst at Huntington National Bank and co-organizer of WIMLDS Columbus. She is a part of the data and analytics team at Huntington. After graduating as the pilot student for the Ohio State University's Bachelor in Industrial and Systems Engineering Data and Analytics track, she began her career as a data science consultant at IBM, where she built her data science skills on projects across multiple industries. She then went on to work as a data scientist at Express. She is currently pursuing her master's in the ISE Data and Analytics track at Ohio State part-time while working at Huntington. She's a co-organizer of WIMLDS Columbus, as well as the logistics coordinator for WIA. In her free time, she loves reading, running, and outdoor activities of all kinds. Catherine Reynolds will be our panelist today. She's a data science recruiter at Upstart. She leads the data science recruiting at Upstart, which is a leading AI lending platform partnering with banks to expand access to affordable credit. Forbes recently ranked Upstart number 12 on its list of most promising AI companies in America. Before joining Upstart, Catherine identified a market need and launched a recruiting practice to help companies find talent and the then emerging disciplines of analytics and data science. Her 10 years of experience of recruiting for data science and analytics skill sets gives her a unique perspective of data-focused hiring across markets and industries. Catherine graduated with a bachelor's from Georgetown College and a master's in journalism from the Ohio State University. In her spare time, Catherine enjoys cycling and traveling. Her favorite adventures combine both. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here today. And I'm going to hand it off to Jen to kick off the conversation.
Yes. Thanks, Reagan, and thanks for everyone for attending today. I'm looking forward to a great conversation with you, Catherine. So to get us started out, why data science? Why is there such a demand for data science roles, and why is everyone excited about this?
Right. So the need for data science really spans all areas of businesses and reaches every sector of the economy. And there's an opportunity for data to deliver value in every line of business, whether that's finance or operations, supply chain, marketing, human resources, even recruiting. And really every line of business in an organization can benefit from getting better insights from their data. The other thing that I wanted to highlight, just kind of from a historical perspective, referencing the 10 years of experience that I have in the data science recruiting area, was that in May of 2011, McKinsey published a study where they identified a talent shortage. And the study was called Big Data, the Next Frontier for Innovation, Competition, and Productivity. And in it, again, this was back in 2011, they predicted a talent shortage of between 140,000 and 190,000 positions focused on deep expertise in statistics and machine learning. And that talent takes years to cultivate, with people pursuing advanced degrees and acquiring that knowledge. So perhaps some people who may have first thought of data science as a career back in, like the early 2010s are just now finishing their PhDs or just recently finished PhDs, quite possibly. Additionally, they also predicted a talent shortage of 1.5 million for analysts and managers to kind of glean the insights from that data and guide the data projects within organizations. So there's a very big need in 2000, or LinkedIn job postings for data scientists increased by 650% for the between 2012 and 2017 alone. So we've seen this continued demand as organizations are looking to data to make better decisions and run the businesses more effectively.
Yeah. And I can speak to, I was in undergrad at the time of that study coming out. And so luckily I was able to pivot into this field. I'd never heard of it before, but it's crazy to look back now and see all the progress that has happened now in 2020. So when you're starting out to hire a data scientist and you're looking at your candidate pool, what does top talent look like? What types of roles or what types of people tend to rise to the top of your search?
Right. So this can vary from company to company, which I have a feeling we'll talk more about later in the conversation. But for us here at Upstart, one of the first things that I do when I look at a resume or consider somebody is to take a look at their education, because at Upstart we value data scientists who bring, have advanced degrees, masters or PhDs in quantitative areas of study, such as statistics, mathematics, physics, finance, computer science, economics, engineering disciplines. So that's the first thing I take a look at is I want to see what someone's academic background is. And also here at Upstart, we value different perspectives. We don't all look for PhDs in statistics to join the team. We really like the diversity of perspectives that people bring from different academic programs, but they are more quantitative backgrounds for sure. The other thing that I take a look for is to look for foundational knowledge in statistics or mathematics, as well as modeling and coding skills. Those are all really important to roles at Upstart. And we don't necessarily look for people who have the same industry experience, like in financial services or banking or fintech, but we do also consider people who whose data science work makes an impact on the success of the business. At Upstart, we're a data science company, not a company with a data science department. So someone who's made a high stakes impact, another kind of background that might be interesting to us would be high stakes algorithmic trading, for example, because that work, again, directly impacts the business. And then we're also looking for someone who's smart, curious, collaborative, driven, and also humble. So those are some things that I'm looking at when I'm looking at resumes or assessing candidates.
Great. And speaking to the technical skills that you started to reference,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us have had the experience where we look at a job posting and it looks like someone maybe just Googled data science buzzwords and then slapped all of them onto the job posting. So when you think about all these different technical skills, Python, R, SQL, Spark, SAS, which ones are the ones that are kind of the minimum viable set to you? And then do you think that there are some skills that can be transferable? Like if you already know R, would you maybe consider that person for a Python only role? So as a candidate, how would you recommend thinking about those things?
Right. Yes. So what we look for is someone with coding skills in either R or Python. Of the two, Python would be more preferred, but we also consider people who have strong R skills and who have a willingness to also learn Python. Some of our data scientists do work in R as well, but the models, when they go into production, are in Python.
And what about some of the more big data type software? Like, do you look for people to have Spark experience, Hive experience, specific experience with certain types of databases?
Yeah, not necessarily, but SQL skills are important. We also use AWS, so any cloud base is important. But again, the focus for the data science team is more so on the coding skills in R or Python, and then any libraries or tools that may go with those skills.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about specialty or other skills like AI, machine learning, natural language processing? Do you need your data scientists to have a data engineering experience at all?
Yeah, so on our data science team, we have generalists and specialists. Some data scientists do the end-to-end work, and others may specialize in the statistical modeling and research side, and others might specialize in machine learning and deploying the models. Yeah, I mean, we just kind of look for people who have either experience end-to-end or in either, maybe some more experience in either of those areas.
Mm-hmm. And you had touched a little bit on some soft skills that you're looking for in an analytics role. I think that's something that's not necessarily talked about all the time. Can you speak
Mm-hmm.
more to what type of soft skills you're looking for and why those are important for a data scientist role?
Yeah, so beyond the technical skills, one of the other things that really stands out is someone who identifies with our mission, which is to enable effortless credit based on true risk. And data science at Upstart may be different than data science at other companies because, again, it directly impacts the result of the business success. The data science team builds an underwriting model that takes into account 1,500 different variables to more accurately predict risk. And some of those include education, occupation, income potential. The model itself actually approves 27% more people than who would have been approved on a FICO score alone, because we're looking to identify good borrowers who may not have prime FICO scores. This really can benefit lots of people. It can benefit recent graduates. It can benefit immigrants. It can benefit people who haven't historically accessed credit, and therefore they don't have a long credit history, so their score may be lower. But people who are drawn to this mission also stand out to us as well as to our values. And then also, just obviously communication is really important in the collaboration. Humility that I mentioned earlier is also very important to us. Someone who is smart, but also humble and can admit when something didn't work out and learn from their mistakes.
So what advice do you have for someone who may have several or maybe even many years of professional experience, but maybe not necessarily an analytics specific background and is trying to pivot into more of a data science role? What types of training, or should they go get a master's degree? What types of things can they do to make themselves attractive to a hiring manager for those types of roles?
Right. I think it depends on whether they're looking to pivot into data science or perhaps to an analyst role. Certainly building data skills, whether that's, that could be just maybe an associate's degree or a certificate, depending on what the educational requirements would be for the position. It could be, just online courses could help somebody. If it is for a true data scientist role, as we would define it, it would probably mean an advanced degree if they don't have that. A lot of people don't have that luxury of, early to mid-career stopping everything and going to pursue a master's degree or even a PhD. So perhaps a shift or pivot into analyst roles may make more sense. And advice I would have would be to leverage the current industry or functional experience that you have within an organization, because you would bring unique perspectives and know what types of questions to ask if you can leverage that business knowledge that you already possess and complement it with data skills.
Great. And you mentioned some additional training options. So outside of a master's or PhD, does something like Coursera, does that look good on a resume, or do you have other types of recommendations for training that might be better for someone looking to build their skill sets?
Right. I haven't looked deeply into this, but I do see Coursera mentioned, Udacity, not sure if I'm saying that right. Several schools through Coursera have certificate programs, or separate from Coursera have certificate programs. These might be between $5,000 and $10,000, depending on the program and the depth of work that's required. But beyond that, even just tackling things that you're curious about, maybe through Kaggle competitions to build experience with coding and solving problems, or open data sets that you can access. For example, here in Columbus, Columbus is a smart city, and there's an open source, open data available through Smart Columbus to tackle mobility issues. So I guess if you can find something that you're passionate about and kind of dig in and be curious and apply coding and modeling and statistical skills, that could be something else that you could do.
Great. I think that's great advice. So finally, what do you think are the biggest challenges of hiring a data science professional?
Yeah, so I think this first starts with the business and knowing what they need to hire for and have a plan for how they'll use the insights and data and value that a data team could bring. And I think it also comes from knowing, from the business, whether they need a data scientist or a data analyst to do the job that, that they need to have done. And then also back to the organization's willingness to act on the recommendations and insights delivered by data teams is also something to make sure that there's buy-in before investing a lot of money in building a team. So I'm going to say first it starts with the business and what their needs are. And then, just in general, the talent shortage that I highlighted earlier makes it challenging. There are competing opportunities for data scientists, and it's once hired, you need to be able to retain the talent and continue to develop them. So I would say those are some reasons why it makes it challenging.
Mm-hmm. So thinking more about the types of roles available to someone looking to move into analytics, I'm sure I'm not unique in that I can sometimes get caught up in the data scientist title, because there's definitely a lot of perception in the industry about how we should all strive to be data scientists. And in my personal experience, I'm not a data scientist now, but that was something I had to admittedly overcome to accept my current role, because my previous role was a data scientist. So I had to think about what work I was going to be doing in my new role. And so I was wondering if you could elaborate more on the variety of positions that actually do exist in the analytics space, and how to think about the different roles and responsibilities for those different positions when you're deciding which one might be right for you.
Right. Yeah, and that's it. That's certainly a challenge when hiring data scientists. Is the title can vary from company to company. Some companies, like you and I talked about, Jen, will give the data scientist title to someone right out of school with an undergraduate degree, and it's as we talked about, kind of hard to for that person to find the next position sometimes, when requirements may be different from company to company. So I would say kind of thinking, where what do you enjoy the most? Is it the research and the statistics and the modeling? Is it closer to engineering and the model, like machine learning engineers, for example, will help the data scientists deploy models and make sure that the pipelines of data that feed into the models are available, for the models to work. So kind of think about where your skills are, and alternatively, they may be in communication, data visualization, the storytelling. Not all data scientists make the best presenters and storytellers, with respect to the data. And so there's a real value in people who can understand and interpret and share that story. So I would say kind of figure out where your skills are and what you're passionate about, and focus on those types of opportunities more so than seeking a specific title.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And you touched a little bit on the differences between industries. You're obviously in financial services now, but given your previous experience, can you speak more to what differences you've observed between different industries and how a candidate can go about thinking about that?
Yeah, so I think that, the big difference is, where does data science fit into the organization? Is it, as it is with Upstart, as a product company, the core of the business, or does it sit in another area of the business to maybe deliver insights to finance or operations, et cetera? But yeah, the data sources will be different. I've done a lot of recruiting in healthcare, and one thing that I found unique in healthcare is the healthcare industry really values people who have healthcare knowledge and experience. There are all these codes and terminology in healthcare, groupers. I'm throwing out buzzwords. Groupers, DRGs, billing, CPT, billing codes, and things like that. I have heard from hiring managers in healthcare that it can take someone 18 months just to come up to speed on the terminology. Yeah, certainly there's going to be some nuances from from industry to industry, I would say kind of the data sources are distinct or can be distinct.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you somewhat touched on this, but when you're thinking about, we have a tendency to think about analytics as its own sub-industry, but you brought up the interesting point of domain expertise. So how should somebody think about when they're looking for their next role, whether to stay in the industry they're in and build their domain expertise, or whether they should venture out elsewhere to kind of go more broad? Do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend person to person and where they are in their career. Someone starting out may want to try different domains, such as healthcare, finance, retail, or others, just to see what they like the most. And certainly data skills are transferable. Over time, someone may choose to specialize, and I believe they would bring a lot of value. The specialization can bring a lot of value to an individual with respect to career path and opportunities that can open up for themselves as a specialist. Yeah, so does that answer?
Yes,
Should I elaborate a bit more? Okay.
Yeah, and you also brought up people just starting out. So do you have any advice specific to someone that's just starting out in analytics and what they should consider when they're evaluating a potential new role?
Sure. So definitely, for someone starting out, focus on the passions that you have and interests that you have. Avoid comparing yourself to other people, other cohorts, maybe from your academic program or your peers, and focus on making decisions that are right for you. That's my first bit of advice. Also, when you're evaluating an opportunity, I would really focus on the team. Hopefully you'll have a chance to meet a team during the interview process, and what you can learn from, what you'll be able to learn from the team. That's really important. Sometimes I speak to people who their first position entailed being the very first data scientist or analytics person for a group. And that can sound exciting and appealing. However, usually after 6 to 9 months, someone can feel tapped out because they're not learning anymore, not being challenged, not learning beyond what they knew coming into that position, potentially. So really evaluate the team and focus that first position on building a really solid foundation. Ask questions, keep learning. Learn all you can, always keep learning and asking questions. And back to the first position, it can be really hard to get the first position, but once you get that, the doors will open up to you. It just takes a lot of persistence sometimes to get that very first position.
So more generally for anybody considering a new role, what types of things do you have any specific flags you'd look out for in a job posting or any other research that someone could do when they're considering a new role to kind of determine what their responsibilities are, what they themselves as a candidate need to bring to the table for that role, or any types of questions or red flags that they should look out for?
Yeah, I would say read the position description carefully because that will, just kind of give you clues into what the company might be looking for and what some of their preferences are. There's a data point, I read about it in Harvard Business Review, but I believe the study may have generated elsewhere, that men will apply if they feel 60% qualified for a position, and women are more hesitant to apply for a role if they don't meet 100% of the requirements. I think there's a lesson there that don't assume you have to check every box, but some boxes may be more important than others. One good thing to do is to go on LinkedIn and run a search to look at data scientists or the analytics team of that particular organization. And you can go through those profiles and see what their backgrounds were. And that will give you good insight as to, just to kind of assess if your background is comparable to the rest of the team. So you have a good idea of if that's a good position to apply for you. And also, as you're reading it, try to assess how data science or analytics fits into that organization. Does this seem embedded in marketing or finance or operations? It's just good to know, how you might fit in.
Mm-hmm. So how about, are there types of questions that a candidate should make sure to ask of the team or the hiring manager when they're in an interview?
Yeah, definitely the team structure and how data science or analytics impacts the business. Who are the stakeholders? What are the data sources? What does the data quality look like? Are you coming into a mature organization from a data standpoint, or is this an organization that's still building out its data capabilities? I think it's also great to ask what successes the team has had, what are their challenges, how the team is perceived internally, and also perhaps continuous learning and mentorship opportunities would be great to understand, and career development potential as well.
So thinking more so about now that you've done the research, you found some roles that you're excited about, actually getting into landing the job. So first of all, how does a candidate rise to the top and get noticed in terms of their resume or their LinkedIn or any other type of online presence? What are some examples of things that tend to stand out and get people that interview?
Sure. One thing that I didn't appreciate as much before recruiting internally for a company as a third-party recruiter, I really didn't, sorry everyone, didn't pay too much attention to cover letters sent to me as a third-party recruiter. But as an internal recruiter, a really thoughtful cover letter can stand out about why the position or why the mission of the company is appealing to that person. I would also recommend, like, when putting a resume together, and I'm not just saying this because I have a journalism background, but formatting and grammar are also really important. Over the course of my analytics and data science recruiting experience, I've had multiple hiring managers say that mistakes stand out and makes them question if someone's their attention to detail. So being able to write present a resume that's thoughtful and well organized with good grammar is important. And then sometimes in an application process, an online application process, there might be a special ask. Like on our application, there's a little brain teaser or statistics problem to solve. We pay attention to that. Then, like I mentioned earlier, with learning, that is really, really important, not just for people who are starting out, but people who are mid-career or later career, really demonstrating continuous learning and learning outside of maybe what's expected from an academic program. Just extra diligence around that area, like Kaggle or Leet Code competitions, online courses, participation in associations and conferences such as, and continued learning such as Women in Analytics and Women in Machine Learning and Data Science. Those are also some things that will stand out.
Great, and you talked a little bit about the actual interview process itself and take-home assignments and things like that. Can you speak more to how a candidate should prepare for an interview? What types of topics should they be studying, or what should they think about or research?
Yeah, again, that's going to vary company to company. For us, it might help for you to crack open a statistics textbook that may be sitting on your shelf and just kind of, brush through that, refresh yourself with terminology. With us, there are some more textbook types of questions in our interview process. Definitely practice coding, and I can't stress that enough. That is not just for us, but that's just something that has been, in my experience, has become more important, especially with R or Python coding. Read books, watch videos on interviewing itself, especially interviews, like technical interviews. There's a real art to knowing how to attack a problem, how to communicate, how to break it down into smaller bits. And you may know how to do that, but in an interview process, you need to demonstrate that you know how to do that and know how to talk about it. So spending some time investing in interview skills would also be important. And yeah, definitely, as I mentioned earlier, take a look at what you can glean about the company's culture, about its values, mission, things of that nature. Being able to connect your interests to those areas is also helpful.
And I'd add to that to always know the name of the CEO at the company that you're interviewing with. It's an actual question I was asked when I was graduating from undergrad, and it scarred me for life because I did not know the answer. But so chiming that in.
Yeah, I had one of those experiences as well, and it was a real eye-opener for me as I was getting started in my career. I've not made that mistake since.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about your previous experiences, and we've touched on this somewhat, especially for people pivoting into a new role, but what are some types of things that you'd recommend highlighting? Especially, are there some experiences that people may not think to highlight that could really set them apart or may translate better than they expected into an analytics position?
Yeah, I would definitely, if you're comfortable talking with your colleagues, letting them know that or maybe colleagues who've already left a company, letting them know that you're considering opportunities. Sometimes they may remind you of a contribution that you've made that you're just not thinking of, or project work that you've done that really could be relevant. So, if you can get some feedback from people about the impact that you've made, that's helpful. Generally, do think about the context of your work and how it impacted the company, what the results were, what the outcome was. That's really important. Highlight technical skills, any skills that you may have learned or picked up on the job to show that you can learn and pick up new things. Again, expressing why you're interested in that specific company is important. And then, as I mentioned, again, just a demonstrated commitment and willingness to keep on learning. You're going to be learning your whole life. I mean, one of the main skills in data science or analytics is curiosity, and to show that you're someone committed to learning is also very important.
Awesome. I think it's a good break to jump into some of the Q&A, because we are getting tons of really awesome questions, and I want to make sure that we can get to a lot of them. So thanks for the discussion so far. This was absolutely awesome. But I want to start doing some engagement with the audience. So Lauren, I know that we've been looking at some of these questions. Do you want to kick us off with the first question?
Of course. All right. So for both of you, what do you think the best way to demonstrate your soft skills that might be transferable to data science roles are on a CV or a resume?
I think Catherine hit on some of the high points with definitely seeking out feedback on your resume from your peers and others to make sure that it's grammatically correct and well structured, since it is the first impression. And I also think that I think that LinkedIn profiles are a great opportunity to demonstrate your writing abilities in particular. But I think that also soft skills definitely come through once you have the opportunity to interview. I think the best way to prove that you have good communication skills is to communicate, right?
Yeah, also in an interview, listening, sometimes the interviewer may be trying to give you a little help in solving a problem, and if you can't decipher that they're trying to help you and kind of latch on to, how they're trying to guide you, that can be challenging. And just also being able to listen and understand, more about the question, can be important. Another way, back to the LinkedIn profile, to kind of showcase some of those soft skills is maybe to solicit some recommendations from people that you've worked with previously, because chances are in those recommendations, they'll speak to how well you worked with others or your contributions to a team, communication skills. So that could be a clue on the soft skills.
Awesome. Our next question, let's see here. Okay, so because of the pandemic, how is the job market for analytics positions now? Has it changed?
We can probably both take this one. Yeah, as I mentioned, Upstart's a data science company, and we have analysts and, again, across all lines of the teams at Upstart. I would say with us, the volume of our hiring has gone down. We're not hiring, but we're hiring fewer positions right now. But we're hopeful that will pick up in the months ahead as the economy continues to rebound. I am less concerned about analysts and data scientists being unemployed long term. Should they be affected by a layoff? The talent is in such demand that it's more recession proof, if you will, than other occupations. But maybe Jen, you could speak to what you see from your vantage point.
Yeah, when I go on LinkedIn and places like that, I still do see a lot of roles listed out there because analytics skill sets definitely help in a hard time to try, when you're trying to figure out what to do next.
Right.
And I would also add that if you are having trouble landing paid roles in analytics right now, there's also some very unique volunteering opportunities available out there too that could help you build up just experiences and kind of the stopgap. Can't Stop Columbus here in Columbus is a good example of that. There's a lot of analytics skills that people are bringing to the table to help various nonprofits and volunteer organizations. So I would encourage people to seek out some kind of non-traditional experiences like that to help fill up your resume in the meantime.
Awesome. All right. So for the next question, do you think a data professional, data science, data analyst, anyone that's involved in the data or analytics fields, do you think they should specialize in a domain, for instance, like healthcare, insurance, retail, finance, any other industry you can think of?
Yeah, just kind of as alluded to earlier, I think just someone who really should find something that really interests them, whether that's healthcare or finance or retail or marketing or lots of other types of industries. Find what you're passionate about. One thing that I noted in doing a lot of data science and analytics recruiting in healthcare is people really felt that they were making a difference in outcomes of patient groups or making healthcare more efficient and affordable, keeping the costs down. That's one example. Certainly with Upstart, we have more of an altruistic mission as well of extending effortless credit based on true risk. So I think I think find what you're passionate about, but don't be afraid to try new industries either, because you can also get new and great experiences from that. And Jen, you've moved industries so far. What have you gained from your perspective?
I think you'll find that there are commonalities across industries, probably more than you would even expect. But I think that Catherine made a lot of great points about pick an industry that you're excited to wake up and think about every day, because at the end of the day, analytics is valuable when people use it to make decisions. And so when you get excited and invested in the decisions people are making in your work, that's what makes it rewarding. So that's how I've decided what industries to work in.
Awesome. There's a few questions here. Actually, I'm going to consolidate a couple of them to try to address as many as possible. So this next question's really around like online courses and free online courses or boot camps or kind of non-traditional ways of educating yourself in the data and analytics space. And what types of expectations or roles should those people be pursuing? And then Catherine, from your perspective, do you view that different than somebody with a bachelor's or master's or PhD? And how do you kind of categorize somebody who's done these online courses?
Yeah, so for us, it's a nice bonus. I would say the core academic experience is probably most important at Upstart. Advanced degrees in the quantitative backgrounds. Of course, that can vary company to company. So we're, just because that's our preference doesn't mean that it can't work, that other companies will value it differently. So I would say that core experience, academic foundation, is most important to us. The other online courses, boot camps, et cetera, are extra. Boot camps are nice, because you get, especially for people maybe transitioning from academia into data science, and perhaps they were, on a PhD path and decided to move into industry instead. The boot camps can be a nice way to make that transition by learning coding skills, working on a project. I would, and hopefully that boot camp would help with career resources after you complete it. So that would be something that I would recommend evaluating. We do appreciate boot camp types of experience, but before investing in one, I would recommend doing some research on the ROI and success of that boot camp.
Great. All right, so this one's for Catherine. So for startups or companies currently growing and hiring, what advice do you have on how to ensure that their newly formed data or analytics teams are continuing to learn and expand their knowledge sets?
For startups specifically, in startups you wear a lot of hats. So just, being able to jump in and help and, in lots of different areas, could be beneficial. Yeah, again, just, can you repeat the question? Was there anything else that?
Sure. And so this might be something that Jen, you might be able to weigh in on too. So for just newer analytics or data science teams, how can those companies ensure that the people on those teams are continuing to learn and grow their skill sets while in the day-to-day role that they are?
I would also add just participating in the larger data science or analytics community in whatever region that they're in can also be, is definitely beneficial as well.
Yeah, I would chime in that the diversity of backgrounds on the team definitely adds to that too. Because if you have people that have different disciplinary experiences or different industry experience, then the team is really learning from each other as well. And so you end up with a whole is greater than the sum of the parts type situation. So I think that that's a big consideration that I personally always look for when I'm considering a new role, is what the makeup of the team is like.
I'll ask another question about people who are trying to land their first job in the analytics space. So, what kind of roles should they be looking for? Maybe they don't have a PhD in any specific field, and they're trying to break into the analytics and data science field. But, to your point, Catherine, you do look for some of that academic background. So if someone doesn't have that or doesn't potentially even have the opportunity to do that, what kind of roles would you recommend they look for, or, just to get started?
Right. I would recommend, if someone doesn't have the master's, PhD level of education yet, taking a look at the analyst roles would be my recommendation, or insights, maybe if someone studied marketing, perhaps focusing on marketing analytics or marketing insights types of roles in organization, or if someone studied supply chain, maybe the, analytics or analyst types of roles in supply chain. Whatever they've sort of studied, try to find how analysts can make contributions in that area.
Awesome. So in terms of looking at a data science or similar role, how can job candidates research a company besides their website? And how can they identify what particular problem that company is trying to solve?
Well, Glassdoor is certainly one place that people often go to get more information about a company by reading, some of the employee reviews, et cetera. The one tool that I've personally used is YouTube, and looking for maybe people from the company who have presented places or been on, in webinars such as this. I find that very helpful for researching the company. Typing the company name into Google and then going to news and doing a news search for that company or some of the key people in the company can also be really helpful for uncovering some stories that you may not have seen otherwise. Twitter also. I love Twitter.
I have another question. So for people who are trying to, especially during the pandemic, they're trying to learn and continue their learning. You both have emphasized how important that is in this particular role. What different resources should they be looking at? And I know you mentioned Kaggle for competitions, but maybe for, additional learning opportunities. Jen, I don't know if you have any go-to sources that you love, or even if they're just trying to subscribe to a news article or a particular newsletter to keep on top of topics, what would you recommend?
So I keep talking about LinkedIn, but I would find data influencers on LinkedIn as well, because there's a lot of people that post a lot of great content, thought-provoking articles and posts and resources. And I'm also a firm believer that the best way to learn is by doing. So when Catherine mentioned Kaggle competitions, I think sitting down with a data set and then working through it, going to Stack Overflow to when you get an error message, I think that's really, in my opinion, one of the best ways to build the experience. You can watch a lot of trainings, but until you actually are getting your hands dirty and seeing things you hadn't thought about before, I think that's what really solidifies the learning.
Just a quick follow-on to that too, Catherine. I'm just curious. Would it be interesting for someone to tell the recruiter or during the recruitment process or hiring process about those types of sources that they get information from, just to show that emphasis on continuous learning?
Yes, I would definitely appreciate that. Again, it kind of go back to the core educational, kind of profile first, but all of that is great. It shows initiative, shows someone's curious, shows they're committed to learning. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I'll speak to people, and especially PhDs, they might be 12 to 9 months from finishing their PhD. It's nice to start a conversation, for me personally, to start the conversation with them and give them some suggestions of things that they can do to make sure that they'll be successful when they interview, not just with us, but, across the board, to help them with their interview skills. I really, really enjoy, it's very rewarding for me when I see people really have put in the time and the effort to get better, to get smarter. And that makes a difference.
Laura, you want to close us out with one more question?
Sure. So in light of the pandemic, I know we've spoken about that a little before, but a lot of people have lost jobs and a lot of students have lost internship opportunities. So for students and professionals who are looking to enhance their resume, enhance their work during this time, what sort of projects make the biggest impact on an analytics or data science portfolio?
Do you want to take that first, Jen, or?
So I think Catherine made a great point about how things are actually used. So I would tend to seek out experiences that are more applied and useful versus, the Titanic data set or the IRIS data set. And going back to organizations like Can't Stop Columbus, I think those are great ways to show value in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, also, I think it's really interesting. I've kind of chuckled because healthcare data modelers are like making headlines. It's like their time to shine right now with all of the COVID models and such. But if there's a way, as Jen alluded to, maybe to help your local community with some modeling or analysis or coding, that would be very meaningful and personally, hopefully rewarding for you too.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for this amazing conversation. I know that a lot of people are curious about this data science field. Titles keep changing. The way that companies are structured keep changing. So I think this is just a great conversation to continuously have over time. And I appreciate both of your insights. Jen being a practitioner in the field and having gone through all of the key points that people are typically looking for when they're trying to make it as a data scientist. And Catherine, your extensive experience going through the recruiting and hiring process for these types of roles. So thank you both so much for being here. Real quick before we close out, I'm just going to share my screen real quick and show you some upcoming events that we have coming up. So like I said, we do this series every other week. They all have different topics, and we partner with different organizations for each one of them. Our next one's going to be in 2 weeks from today at the exact same time. This one's on the data lifecycle, and it will be everything from biz to viz and beyond. So we have 3 panelists that will be talking about their individual contributions and roles within the data lifecycle. And we are partnering with Women in Big Data for that one. And I want to mention another upcoming one that's in a month. So on June 24th, we will have Emily and Jacqueline on, who are both authors of a book called Build a Career in Data Science. So this is a featured book session. We will be promoting a link that actually has a discounted code for you to get the book. And so this is a month in advance if you want to take the time to actually read the book and you're interested in this topic, which I assume most of you are since we're here during this discussion. And we'll be promoting this, and you can sign up for this directly after this event as well. So with that, I want to thank you all so much for participating and being here with us today and taking your lunchtime to listen to Jen and Catherine talk about their experiences in the careers of data science. So thank you so much for coming, and we will see you all in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Additionally, so this webinar is being recorded, so we will be posting the link to this. So for those of you that jumped on late or that would just like to watch it again, look out for that. And thank you all for being here. We're always so excited to talk about data science and the field we love.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Regan and Lauren.